What is up, Viselanders? Thank you for checking out another episode of Viseland. Mikey, what is happening?
I got a new shirt.
He did get a new shirt. That is proof. He's got a new shirt. And what does this shirt recommend, especially for our people that aren't viewing?
Perspective Insight, baby. PerspectiveInsight.com. You can read our Q&A series. You can go to our YouTube channel where we have a lot of great high school prospects and draft breakdown videos now. So yeah, definitely hype to wear this gear from Prospective Insight, aka Pro Insight. And thank you to Matt McKay, Mr. Pro Insight, who had a birthday last week. So happy birthday as well.
And look at that. He's giving out gifts in the meantime, to others.
For his birthday, I know.
Yeah.
Pretty nice.
That's a long way. But also tonight, so if you know the time of this recording, December 22nd, 2020, NBA opening night.
Yes, indeed.
What
do you think? We had two games. We had Brooklyn against Golden State and the Lakers-Clippers battle. And neither were very close.
Yeah. I basically, my initial thought is, I take back almost everything I said about Golden State last week. Definitely my bad. Probably going to be a long road ahead.
Yeah. What I will say is you're not wrong about Stephen Curry being an amazing player. He didn't have a great game tonight, but I still see Stephen wasn't where I had the issues with the Warriors.
No. It's everyone around him. He's going to be individually great, but it's does he have without losing his mind, and beat someone up on his team? How is he going to get these guys to the playoffs and to actually be primed for that run? I think, it's really the missing of those kind of role player guys that you kind of took for granted on those Golden State teams is definitely
well, and some of the star player guys that you
obviously
on the team.
No Clay, but also just
Kevin Durant. People forget that Kevin Durant, when they won the championship, got to the NBA championship, he was a part of that team too. So you have no Kevin Durant. They weren't good last year without Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson, and those guys. Yes, you barely had Stephen Curry, but they weren't good with Stephen Curry in a very small sample size. Draymond Green clearly wasn't himself. They don't have the same depth that they used to have, where you could bring a guy like Andre Iguodala in off the bench, a guy who could start and play minutes for pretty much any team in the league. Sean Livingston, of course.
I'd say those two, Sean Livingston and Andre Iguodala, are the two guys that are probably the most that archetype.
Yeah, and so I think it was a bad game, and I think the other thing is Brooklyn looks like a good team. Yeah, and not surprisingly, Kevin Durant looks like a great player. Kyrie Irving, I think we do recall, had some great matchups against Stephen Curry and is still a great player in his own right as well. Phenomenal scorer and great shooter. So to me, those guys not working was always kind of looking past the fact of just how phenomenal they both are as offensive players. And not to mention Kevin Durant being a really good defensive player and Kyrie Irving being not a bad defensive player. You can question his effort all you want, but he has some really good instincts on that end of the floor as well. And I think they have better pieces than people thought. And certainly they played most of the year last year without those two guys, and we're a playoff team.
No, Carr started off pretty, had a good first night today too, off the bench, kind of someone else that kind of keeps you honest. But I think Brooklyn definitely is going to be an interesting team to watch. But the funny thing that I kind of forgot was they were talking about Steve Nash, Mike D'Antoni, Amare on those Phoenix teams, and that Steve Kerr was the GM.
Yeah.
Those Phoenix teams.
True enough. Yeah.
Kind of look at funny crossing of.
Yeah, Steve Kerr had a nice basketball career before he became the coach of the Golden State Warriors, for sure.
But then, but I think, Brooklyn is going to be definitely probably a dangerous team to watch, in the playoffs. But I definitely think the Lakers-Clippers games was one of those, yes, the Lakers did not win. The Lakers kind of lost by a bit, but I don't. Yeah. It's the NBA. It's a long season. LeBron, I don't think, obviously, was really at, going at it 100%. He was kind of not getting the amount of time that I would have thought. It's a long season.
Yeah, I think that they kind of saw the writing on the wall as far as the game was concerned, and they weren't playing their best basketball. But I saw some nice factors there as well. And Anthony Davis didn't have his best game either. But Dennis Schroeder, Montrezl Harrell both kind of did what they did. The defense was a little disappointing, I felt, in many facets with the Lakers. And, yeah, they just weren't on their best game tonight. But they had a similar strategy last year where they decided to get clobbered by the Clippers on the first night and then win the NBA championship. So I think, like, according to last season, it seems like they could very well be on that same trajectory.
No, definitely. And again, like I think these games mean a lot more to the Clippers and getting, their fan base. But, it's kind of thing like I was disappointed, of the performance from the GOAT. By that I'm saying Taylor Horton-Tucker, wasn't doing his thing. No, I think the Lakers, it's a long season. They're going to, definitely, be better. And especially when you really see LeBron and Anthony Davis really going 100%. And I definitely think this is probably just, again, Western Conference Finals. I think both of these teams are kind of have good depth and good, good experience that's going to hopefully help in the playoffs. And obviously for Paul George, he really wants to shake off his bad reputation. And when Kawhi is going and cooking, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, well, Paul George played a great game tonight. And, yeah, certainly it was nice for him after having a pretty rough playoffs last year. He was shooting out of his mind, and I think he was the big difference maker tonight. Serge Ibaka certainly provides a new kind of look as well at center, and Nick Batum, he definitely didn't stuff the stat sheet or anything like that, but he's bigger and he still passes well. He still can play defense.
He's lengthy.
Nice length. Yeah. So the Clippers still obviously a very good team. The Lakers, I think, are eventually going to get it together, and it should be very interesting. I don't think it's always going to be the night where we saw the two guys for the Clippers outplaying the two guys from the Lakers. But it does happen on some nights, and on some nights they're just not at their best.
If I had to sit around and
watch in this one, yeah,
I had to sit around and watch you get ring, your championship ring, and watch a whole ceremony, I'd want to be coming out.
Yeah,
pretty hot.
Well, the Lakers got no break, and the Clippers had a longer one. Let's be real with that too.
No,
so yeah.
Again, long.
Clippers didn't even have to play in the Western Conference Finals. Sure, it was because they lost and didn't get there, but they didn't have to do it.
Yeah.
So my theory is that the Lakers still really good team, and
LeBron knows
and
game.
One thing I will say, I feel like the separation between these two teams I never felt was as great as people seem to make it seem like it was. But I still do feel like the Lakers will eventually be the superior team. Health pending. And we'll just see what happens. But it was a fun first night in the NBA, and as usual, this could lead into what we're talking about this week for Viseland. We're getting some very small sample size, this is, I'd say, the smallest sample size possible of one game, and we're making some assumptions possibly based on that. And for me, I wouldn't make assumptions on this one game, but if you get a few game sample size, then, your brain kind of starts thinking. So we're going to break down All-American candidates by conference. I went through the conferences and just saw people who I thought could be candidates for the All-American team. And then we're going to go through and name All-American teams, and we're going to name an All-Freshman team, maybe talk about some awards in the conferences, and some players that are standing out along the way. But JB, what do you think about this?
I think it's great. I think we're right at this time, and I know for the Pac-12 specifically, starting tomorrow, Wednesday, December 23rd, 2020, they're shifting towards conference play. So we're at this really good kind of middle point in the basketball season where it's really narrowing in, hopefully for March Madness. But obviously last year did not lead to that. So hopefully some sort of madness I would love to see.
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah, whenever it happens, I just want to see madness that's directed on a basketball court. That's always a good thing. And if, again, you know me, my weakness, you play one shining moment at the end, I will be there to watch it.
I just more like the economic destruction that the NCAA tournament brings to most corporations for people that do a half-assed job during it. So I really missed that last year.
It's a shame how that is. Yeah, so let's start.
To people that do that, because I know I would. But we'll start at the top. We'll start with the ACC, and I feel like there aren't a ton of guys in the ACC who are real All-American candidates this year. I know, like at the beginning of the year. First off, let me give an idea of what the AP had as their All-American team at the beginning of the year. They bring back Luca Garza, who was a first-team All-American last year and had a tremendous junior season for Iowa. They had on the team also Jared Butler from Baylor, who, you know, still one of the best teams in the nation. Corey Kispert from Gonzaga, who, right now Gonzaga and Baylor, top two teams.
Also guys that we've talked about on the show as well about like
absolutely. So we're hoping that they play each other. Also had Oklahoma State freshman Cade Cunningham, Illinois junior Ayo Dosunmu, and they added a sixth guy on the team just for the hell of it, and that was Remy Martin from Arizona State. And
also just winner of the all-name team. I mean,
it could be.
Takes over from his former teammate Trey Holder. That was
Remy Martin, Trey Holder. Yeah, it was a duo. And then others that were receiving votes, you had Marcus Zagorowski from Creighton, you had Colin Gillespie, you had Garrison Brooks from North Carolina, Marcus Garrett from Kansas, Trace Jackson Davis, Indiana, Jalen Crutcher from Dayton, Trendon Watford from LSU, Kofi Coburn from Illinois, Olivier Sarr from Kentucky, Kihei Clark from Virginia, Jeremiah Robinson-Earl from Villanova, Javonte Smart from LSU, Oscar Tshiebwe from West Virginia, and Sam Hauser from Virginia. So there are a few guys on that list who I think we'll talk about here. There are a few guys who I feel are kind of on the outside looking in through a very small sample size. But yeah, let's get into it, and we'll start with the ACC. And the three guys that I have as All-American possibilities from the ACC, so this is either first, second, or third team. And these are just, so through the conferences, they're just possibilities. And the three guys that I have are Sam Hauser, who was on the preseason AP honorable mention or guys receiving votes, Matt Hurt from Duke, and Carlik Jones from Louisville. And the thing that's, I guess, stood out with Sam Hauser is that he is still shooting fantastic. They did have that early loss, but I think that he's still, like, during conference play, Virginia to me still seems like one of the favorites in the ACC. So I think that, like, Sam Hauser's numbers aren't out of this world early on, but I think they're still one of the favorites in the ACC, and he's still kind of like the guy on that team. I don't think Kihei necessarily is at that level this year. So I still think Sam Hauser has a chance. And then as far as the other two, Carlik Jones has just gotten off to like a fantastic start at Louisville, and his backcourt mate David Johnson also playing very well. But yeah, Carlik right now is shooting 60% from three on a smaller sample size for sure. But yeah, just shooting really well. He's at 47% from the field, 60% from three, 81% from the line. So averages right now on a 4-game sample size. They did just play tonight, and they beat Pittsburgh. And he's playing well. He's doing well on offense, being their kind of like main distributor, and then also really good defensively. And then Matt Hurt for Duke, I just feel like he's their main guy, and Duke obviously hasn't gotten off to a fantastic start either. But I feel like he's done enough offensively, and but he may not have gained all the weight that they have listed him at. I think they listed him at like 235, 240, but he's noticeably stronger. And I think the thing with Matt Hurt is he's always just been like an absolute bucket, and has the shooting ability Duke like desperately needs. So I think he's going to be the guy that they rely upon in conference play, and have mostly relied upon as their leading scorer so far this year.
Well, it's also just crazy to look at the ACC and only see, a few players on there, and look at the top 25. Absolutely. And you're not seeing a lot of, ACC teams on it, which is like bizarro world, because usually if it's not Duke, it's Carolina. Usually they have somebody, towards that top, but really there's no one really in the, as of this recording, and in the top 15 from the ACC. But yeah, moving on, we got.
Hold on 1 second. I just want to add a couple things here. With North Carolina, Garrison Brooks was a guy who was considered for All-American selection, but I don't feel like he's necessarily done enough. And it's probably part of that is the fact that North Carolina has a really crowded front court, and Day'Ron Sharpe has been one of the impressive guys. A guy that I want to shout out, or I want a couple guys to shout out actually from the ACC, guys who aren't likely All-Americans, but Justin Champagny from Pittsburgh, and his brother Julian from St. John's are both having tremendous sophomore seasons. And I just don't think either one of their teams is necessarily good enough for them to likely get All-American consideration. But yeah, they've really stood out. And then another freshman that I wanted to shout out in the ACC is Kaderi Richmond for Syracuse. If you just look at his statistical profile, and because Syracuse is still a team that I need to watch a little bit more closely. But his nickname is Cooks, and he is averaging like an absurd amount of assists for the number of minutes that he plays. He's about 6'5" also. And his steal and block percentages like really kind of jump out. So yeah, he's like one of those guys who, and I'm sure part of that is playing in the zone, but yeah, he's like killing the zone right now. And he has a statistical profile that's very much worth watching. They also have a guy in Alan Griffin who is the brother of AJ Griffin, who's coming into Duke next year. And he has been like a box plus minus wonder. And Quincy, I need to shout out Quincy Guerrier too, because he's having a really good year for the start for them. But yeah, now we can move on, JB.
Yep, let's go on to the American Conference. Who are the guys that you're looking at there?
Yeah, just a couple guys who kind of stand out, and I think they're sort of long shots. One is Quentin Grimes, and I just think Houston's going to be a really good team. He hasn't necessarily gotten off to the most efficient start, but he's scoring, and he's always been a guy that, has been on the draft radar. Didn't necessarily have the best freshman year at Kansas, had a pretty so-so year last year, but it's kind of come into his own. He's a guy who can, do some creation for himself and get some other guys involved as well. And just hoping that the shooting percentages come up a little bit. But yeah, I think Houston's going to be such a good team that
they're top 10 team right. Yeah, top 10 team right now. So
yeah. So he's a guy that I think is at least somebody to watch there. And then the other guy who's just stood out statistically is Kendric Davis, who was a pretty highly rated high school player, and he has done a good job so far for SMU. He's averaging 20.4 points per game, 7.6 assists, 3.8 rebounds, shooting. This is a smaller sample size also, but yeah, gotten off to a good shooting start, and seems to be in a good groove for his junior season.
Nice, awesome. Yeah, like Houston has definitely been a very good team lately. I know,
sure. And go on.
Past few years, I mean, the Ducks, we've played them on and off. Yeah. It's always a tough matchup.
Yeah. Tremont Mark, their freshman guard, is somebody who's really interesting to me. And he's somebody I still haven't seen a ton, but just noticing him in the games that I have seen, he looks quite intriguing. Like about a 6'5" freshman, but like is on the ball quite a bit and seems to be able to make some things happen.
Nice. Well, moving on, we got the A10 conference, the Atlantic 10. Who are some guys that you're thinking for All-American status?
Yeah, just a few guys to keep on the watch list there. Of course, Jalen Crutcher was somebody that we mentioned as a preseason AP vote receiver, and he played exceptionally well last year when Dayton was one of the best teams in the nation, and they're still pretty good. And has he built on the year before? Probably not a ton, but he still, really good shooter. And somebody that I think you should keep an eye on is, kind of their main distributor as well. So yeah, Jalen Crutcher still seems to be in the mix of things there. A couple other guys, Tre Mitchell leading the conference in scoring and one of the nation's leaders in scoring, and had a really great freshman year. I believe was Atlantic 10 Freshman of the Year. And he plays for UMass. He's a center, just somebody who's really tough for many NCAA teams to stop down low. And a few other guys like Jordan Goodwin has always been a guy who's just kind of like an anomaly. He's like about 6'3", but that dude is a ball hawk, and he like has these super long arms as well. I think he has like a +7 or +8 wingspan, and he is leading the conference in rebounding right now. He's averaging 10.9 rebounds per game, 4 assists per game. St. Louis is a really good team. So I think he'll at least get it deserves to be on the watch list. And then Jalen Crutcher, Nashawn Bowens-Hyland. He is somebody that is has been on the NBA draft radar for quite a while.
And Bones is a nickname. Bones is a nickname.
Very good nickname.
Well,
He's a tremendous shooter, and he has gotten better this year at getting to the basket, getting to the free throw line a little bit more, and just making some things happen for himself. But yeah, he's just one of the premier shooters in college basketball right now, and scoring at a really good rate in his sophomore season.
Well,
for Virginia Commonwealth.
Well, it's always just like one of the best things about college basketball too is like that there are so many conferences that have strong teams. I mean, you look at those guys, like nobody wants to see them in the tournament.
Yeah, and we're giving you guys just to keep an eye on and to watch in the tournament if it comes around as well.
And
we're in conference tournaments.
Moving on, we got historical conference that's obviously gone through some facelifts and changes, but we're talking the Big East. Of course, that we're liking there.
Well, we got UConn. They're back, and James Bouknight has started off the year really, really well. He was a guy that I think a lot of people felt was going to take a nice bump after a really good freshman year that definitely had him on draft radars as well. And he has taken that really nice bump. I think right now he's averaging 24 points per game, and he is coming off a really close game against Creighton where he had 40 and was making some really impressive things happen in isolation, off the pull-up. So, yeah, he's a really talented scorer. Does he do necessarily like enough to make his teammates better and everything like that? That's still to be determined. But, yeah, he's one of the premier scorers, I think, in college basketball this season. And I think is set to have a fantastic year, and definitely a guy who I was very impressed with, at least watching that Creighton game. Another player from the Big East who has been as advertised is and was on the AP list as well, Jeremiah Robinson-Earl, and known as JRE, and just a really smart player, always somebody who was just really good, like in terms of like being able to handle, to pass, step out and shoot a bit, has decent athleticism, nothing amazing. We talked about Jeremiah Robinson-Earl before, And he
big rebounding. Yeah, just a big body.
Yeah, he's had a really nice start to the year. Paul Scruggs from Xavier is a senior, though I guess, technically could come back. But he's having a really good start to his senior year, and Xavier is undefeated. And, they're 8-0. And Paul Scruggs always was a guy who was pretty highly rated. Took him a little bit to get going. But, yeah, it seems like he's really kind of come into his own during his senior season. Still not necessarily like the most consistent shooter, but he's seems to be at least getting better there. And definitely has something to prove in terms of trying to make it onto the NBA radar. And it at least seems like a possibility as an All-American this year. And the final guy I have from the Big East, I just think like Villanova is kind of Jeremiah Robinson-Earl's team. I'm not really sold on Colin Gillespie being an All-American this season, but I still feel like Marcus Zagorowski has some time to step back up. I thought he was fantastic last year as a sophomore at Creighton. Really good defender, great shooter, just a really smart player. So yeah, he hasn't necessarily had the best start this year, but he's still a guy that I feel like as the season progresses, like is going to be one of the better players in the NCAA.
Nice, awesome. Well, now we're getting into I say big, but the Big 10/12 obviously be next, but got to give it up for the Big 10. That it's called the Big 10. They have way more teams than that, but definitely a lot of this is a pretty strong year for the Big 10.
They're changing their name actually to the Big 30.
Yeah, because it's like
they have so many freaking teams.
I remember I was out with a friend who didn't know a lot about sports, and I was like explaining college sports. I was like, well, you got the Big 10 that's got 14 teams, you got the Big 12 that's got 10 teams. Like at the time, it's just like, I'm like, if someone else is if you're just eavesdropping on me, you're like, this is the dumbest person ever. But
yeah, at least the Pac changed its name.
Yeah, the Pac we evolved.
They started as the Pac-8, and then they went to the Pac-10, and then Pac-12 doesn't sound as good as Pac-10, but it's still, we changed it.
I find myself
symbolize how many teams are in our conference. And why I think they should change their name to the Big 30 is it gives them something to grow into.
Yeah.
But
there's a lot of Midwestern East schools, but yeah, who are some guys in the Big 10 that are really obviously there's start at the first team from last year. You got Luca Garza. We've talked about him.
Indeed.
Big college big man.
Yeah, he's off to a fantastic start as well. And in some of the marquee matchups he hasn't necessarily come out and killed it, but against the schools that he needs to kill, he annihilates them. He just absolutely kills them. And then even in those bigger matchups, he's still good. And he was at least decent against Gonzaga. He was decent against North Carolina. And then he's just kind of crushed everybody else that he's gone up and played this year. He's an under-the-rim master. Iowa is also a really good team. Joe Wieskamp, he is a legitimately really good player. They have some other good players as well, like Bohannon and Frederick and the McCaffrey boys, the coach's sons. They're a really good team. Even the little dude, what's his name? His name is Tucson. Yeah. Scrappy little dude. So yeah, they Iowa I think is a legitimately good team, and I think the reason that they're one of the elite teams in the NCAA is having a guy like Luca Garza who can step out and shoot the three. Rarely passes the ball, but there's a reason. He's extremely deadly as an offensive player. He's a center that I think most college basketball teams would absolutely love to have. And I still think is probably the favorite to win Player of the Year and was the winner last year of the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar Award as the top center in the NCAA. A few other – I think the Big Ten seems to be the most stacked conference just in terms of having these kind of big-time players, and maybe it's because they have so many good teams as well. Marcus Carr is going into a senior year where he is looking, or no, it's his junior year. Yeah, sorry. And yeah, he's just seems to be much improved in terms of efficiency from last year. His ability to score in isolation. He's been like super clutch in some of the games as well. So yeah, he's a guy that I think is like gaining some possible All-American buzz. He had a really good game against St. Louis, and they are, as we mentioned with Jordan Goodwin, like they're not an easy team to beat. And yeah, he's had a lot of really nice standout performances. Right now, he's third in scoring and first in assists in the conference. And then the other player, I will admit, I was sleeping on him a little bit, and I kind of felt like it was going to be like a team effort at Illinois. But Ayo Dosunmu, as we mentioned in previous Viseland, is looking really, really good this year and seems to have figured some things out, shooting a lot better.
Oh yeah, his shooting percentage is almost up like 10% from like last year. And I mean, scales getting 22 a game. I mean, he's really like leading this Illinois team.
He is not only like the 22 a game, but it's like the fact that he's averaging 8 rebounds per game. He's averaging 5.3 assists per game. He is, like Illinois, I think, is a legitimately good team. And Ayo Dosunmu is their guy. They do have 3 losses, but they played a really tough schedule. And, their most recent loss was to Rutgers. But I will mention that Rutgers has a guy who is garnering All-American buzz himself in Ron Harper Jr., the son of NBA, I would say, let's say legend.
I'll go legend because you got the Bulls and the Lakers. I mean, he was point guard on both.
A lot of winning.
Championship spots.
Yeah. So Ron Harper, a lot of winning in his time. His son is just this huge dude who is like, he's listed at 6'6", 245, and he is just tearing up college basketball this year, averaging 24 points per game, 7.3 rebounds, 2.5 assists. His shooting is like the really crazy part. Rutgers is 6-0, and he is shooting 60% from the field, 52.5% from 3, and 62.5% from 1. Whatever. His free throw shooting, obviously not amazing.
Not his calling card.
Yeah, but he's more like basically a college big, and I'm guessing filling a role similar to somebody who will be mentioned later on the list. Used to fill at Rutgers and is now filling a different school. But yeah, Ron Harper doing a tremendous job at being this main focus for Rutgers this year, and Rutgers is winning basketball games. And it looks like they could be a team that fights for an NCAA tournament berth, if not like a higher seed. I guess we'll see as the season progresses. But yeah, that beating Illinois is no small feat. And then another couple players that I wanted to mention in the Big Ten, Aaron Henry. I think Michigan State's going to be really good. I know they did just lose to Northwestern, which was pretty surprising. That was their first loss of the year. But yeah, he's such a great all-around player. Lefty, not the best shooter, but he does so many other things really well. He's a tremendous, intelligent defender, great passer, gets rebounds as well. So yeah, he's I think somebody who, as the season progresses, is going to at least be in that conversation. And then Trace Jackson Davis has had a really nice start to the season as well. Son of Dale Davis, we've talked about him as well. But yeah, the guy is putting up some monster numbers. And
21 points, like 8.6 rebounds, 2.1 blocks. I mean, yeah, definitely, looking like a good decision coming back to school, and definitely hopefully add a refinement for him.
Yeah, I think the buzz for him early on is definitely headed in the positive, and yeah, he's kept up like his really strong production so far. So yeah, I think there's certainly a possibility there. And then let's move on to the Big 12.
Let's get it. Who are some, obviously, Baylor, as mentioned, super, super top.
Absolutely.
So you gotta have Jared Butler there, kind of the leader.
Yeah. I think Jared Butler is likely the favorite to be Big 12 Player of the Year. It seems like he's really upped his, we were saying where we want to see more of those point guard skills, and he definitely seems to be having those huge assist numbers and the lower turnover numbers. So definitely looking like some positives there so far. And yeah, he was one of the best players in college basketball last year, and it certainly seems like he's even upped his efficiency this season. Davion Mitchell, another player on Baylor who is putting up those solid numbers, putting up the big assist totals as well. And I think those two guys are two of the best guards in the nation, and a reason that Baylor will likely be the favorite to win the Big 12. But Kansas, of course, still doing pretty well. And Ochai Agbaji, I think, has kind of been their standout so far. I know Marcus Garrett was the one garnering most of the early season press, was the defensive player of the year in college basketball last year. So obviously, that end of the floor, he's still great there. He's just gotten off to a bit of a slow start. So I don't have him listed as a likely All-American candidate, but still very much of the season left, and he could really prove me wrong. But I feel like Ochai has kind of been the guy standing out there. Another guy who I feel on Kansas has stood out quite a bit is Jalen Wilson, who is played a couple games for Kansas, but not enough to count. So he's a redshirt freshman and has looked really good in a few of their games. Had that huge second half against, it was Creighton. Yeah. He had the monster second half in the Creighton game, and he has shown a little bit of ability to stretch the floor. Kind of I feel like he's more of a amazing small ball four than a wing guy, but he certainly has some of those skills and ability to kind of score inside and out. So yeah, I wouldn't have him as a likely All-American, but he's been somebody that's really stood out, and I just wanted to give some props to. Matt Coleman is having a really good year for Texas, and I think Texas is quite a good team as well. Was of course great in the Maui/Asheville Invitational.
Oh, that is so sad. Yeah, you got your sights set on going to Maui, and most people couldn't even go, period. But now, if you do get to go and you're a player, you're going to Asheville.
Yeah. Wonderful Asheville. Well,
I'm sure Asheville's great.
In most places, you're not doing very much anyway. So
at least I'm thinking more of the support staff that gets some free time.
Yeah, true enough. Good point. Well, yeah, of course, I'm sure everybody missed Maui this year. I know I would have loved to have been in Maui anytime. Cade Cunningham has probably not been exactly what you would have thought is his expectations were completely unrealistic, and I still think is playing exceptionally well and is leading the Big 12 in scoring right now. They did lose their first two conference games, but he is, and they were really close games also. They won their first 6 games. Cade's had a few, not amazing performances so far, but I think overall has been fantastic, is really overextended and doing I think just more than pretty much anybody in the NCAA right now in terms of what he has to work with. And I know he would love to just be a distributor, still putting up really nice assist numbers, but yeah, turning it over quite a bit. The shooting's come a bit back down to earth. After a ridiculous scorching start, he's now at 36.7% from 3, which is still really good. And it's something that could rise up again. His shot has looked great. He's been able to do it off of pull-up. He's made tons of clutch shots as well. I still feel like Cade Cunningham is one of the best players in college basketball. It's kind of amazing because he may not be the favorite to win Big 12 Player of the Year, likely because of how Oklahoma State does in conference. So, yeah, that would, I think, be the big drawback is how much they would actually win. And we know that the NCAA, hopefully they overturn it. And we saw them have a waiver to basically clear every transfer this year, which is wonderful.
Amazing.
And then I'm thinking that nobody gets a year burned off. So we see some players like Ben Gregg for Gonzaga and Macabre Etienne for UCLA and Frank Kepnang for Oregon, who may be on the roster very soon. And you would think that all those guys can play this year and not have to burn a year of eligibility. So, yeah, just seems pretty great there. Cade doesn't have to worry about that, of course. And
Cade's
on after this year.
His name called very.
But yeah, he's been great, and yeah, certainly I think he is almost a lock to be an All-American if he plays a full season. But yeah, what I was saying is hopefully the NCAA lets Oklahoma State get into the postseason. That is if they make it, because there's no guarantees there.
Yeah.
The Big 12 is a very tough conference, and I still have one more player I would like to shout out there who I feel has definite All-American aspirations, and that is Miles Deuce McBride, who is a fantastic instinctual defender, has really improved as a shooter, definitely seems to have quite a bit more confidence there. And one of the, I feel, more exciting guards in the NCAA. So that is a list of guys who I feel the Big 12 has. I do actually have one more name. And Oklahoma's been playing pretty well. Austin Reeves was somebody who I felt stood out. He was a transfer from Wichita State, and he has done quite well in Oklahoma. He's shooting a bit like his old self from Wichita State. Last year, he wasn't necessarily putting up like crazy shooting numbers, but this year doing a lot better, averaging 6.2 assists, 5.3 rebounds. So yeah, if Oklahoma keeps a positive record, Austin Reeves, he's a long shot, but I think still, I guess, is a honorable mention. Let's say.
That's one of the best parts about, they always do have those honorable mentions. But yeah, moving on back to mid-major action, Conference USA. I know you have
USA. I have a couple guys that I just wanted to shout out, and I feel like they may be sort of long shots, but Tavion Kinsey, he's one of the crazier vertical athletes in the NCAA. Doesn't really shoot the ball very much, but he is just so explosive off of the floor and has had a really nice start to the year. And he is averaging 21 points per game, 5.7 rebounds, 3.5 assists to only 2.3 turnovers. So not bad, considering he's more of a wing and not really like a primary distributor. And I think he's one of the more exciting guys in the nation too. So somebody to definitely keep an eye on. And then player leading the conference in rebounds and block shots, Charles Bassey.
Over 3.5 block shots a game right now. It's pretty, pretty good start to the season.
What Mike Gribinov, who is somebody that I would say is a friend of the program, obviously one of the premier people on Draft Twitter, he mentioned a fact that was really interesting in that Bassey is one of the leaders in the nation. I think at the time he might have been leading, but I think we'll say he's one of the leaders in the nation at block percentage and also defensive rebound percentage, which is really impressive. So, Charles Bassey is a player that we've talked about before, certainly has an NBA build and some athleticism to boot. So, he is definitely somebody to watch and has a chance if Western Kentucky keeps it up. Moving on to the MAC, I wanted to mention a couple guys, and this is the Mid-American Conference. And Lauren Christian Jackson from Akron is putting up ridiculous numbers. So he's just somebody that I think you at least should keep an eye on. And Akron has only played 4 games, but he is doing a good job. Actually, they really beat Ohio, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah, because Ohio's done pretty well on there.
Yeah, exactly. Like Ohio looked like one of the teams that might be a Cinderella there. So yeah, they beat Ohio 90-70.
Wow.
And yeah, that was that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I always think for schools like that, I mean, Ohio, Akron's in Ohio, Ohio should be bigger, but teach their own. But then also, but on Ohio, someone who put himself on the map that, crazy enough, was literally just going to go to University of Central Florida as a normal student because he had no scholarship offers.
Yeah,
Jason Preston,
player that we mentioned. So yeah, Jason Preston is another guy who I think you should probably keep an eye on. But yeah, like Jason Preston averaging 19.3 points per game, 7.8 assists. You would think that Ohio does pretty well in the MAC. And Lauren Christian Jackson right now, though, averaging 25 points per game and 8.7 assists per game. So, yeah, this guy putting up crazy numbers. So, two guys from the smaller Mid-American Conference, definitely to keep an eye on. And I don't have anybody – oh, let's move on to the Mountain West. I just wanted to mention one guy from the Mountain West because I feel like his team is likely going to crush. They did just lose their first game to BYU from the West Coast Conference, but he had 35 points in that game. Matt Mitchell is just a player that I really enjoy watching, and he is just a lot of fun. He's built like a football player, but he has a really long wingspan, can score from all three levels. He's somebody that I still feel like has possible All-American aspirations, and just at least somebody to keep a watch on.
Well, when you talk about the Mountain West, it basically is the San Diego State Conference. Like,
yeah,
like they're always kind of the cream there. But moving on to our beloved West Coast Pac-12. Obviously, we're the best conference everybody knows by a long, long shot, but we just don't like to prove it on the court. We just like to keep it to ourselves. Who are some guys that you're feeling from the Pac? Because obviously, we're not going to get it's not the same as the Big 10, Big 12. They're not going to get that many teams in the tourney. But yeah, who are you feeling?
I mean, some years better than others, Jason.
No. So I mean,
but,
I remember years ago when it was.
We're talking about this year, I guess.
And they were getting seven teams in, 6 or 7 teams in. But it ebbs and flows. I mean, that's the nature of the game.
Is the Pac-12 usually one of the best conferences in the nation? No.
No.
But I mean, have we had some badass draft prospects, and did we have a first-team All-American last year? Yes, we did. But this year, I have 4 guys that I will have on the watch list. Oscar Da Silva from Stanford, who is a tremendous small ball 5 in college basketball, can stretch the floor, can score inside, averaging close to 9 rebounds per game, I believe. And yeah, he is – oh, no, not 9. Where's he at? Oscar, 6 rebounds per game. Either way, he's shooting really well. Stanford should be one of the better teams in the Pac-12. They don't have a ton of depth, but their starting lineup, as we mentioned earlier, fantastic. Zaire Williams has been a little up and down, but it seems like he's kind of come back into his own and maybe hopefully recovering from the little – at least there was some injury that was throwing him off early on. But, yeah, tremendous shooter and a tremendous prospect in his own right. But Oscar Da Silva is the guy from Stanford who I think has at least should be on a watch list for the All-American. Remy Martin still – he hasn't necessarily been fantastic, and I think the first team is certainly out the window, likely, but he's still quite a good player and should put up nice numbers. And Arizona State, another team kind of fighting for the top spot. USC has one guy who I think is somebody like Cade Cunningham, who I mentioned, unless he, let's really hope he doesn't, but unless he gets hurt or, some unforeseen circumstance, Evan Mobley is looking like he's an absolute All-American. And he's been fantastic. He's leading the conference he's second in rebounds to his brother right now, but leading in block shots per game. Just a tremendous athlete, has defensive instincts, has shown shooting touch, great passer. So, yeah, Evan Mobley, one of the best players in the nation, and then looking like a bona fide, top, 3 pick in the NBA draft as well.
NBA is that destination, and he can see it. He can see it from where he's at right now. Yeah, he's probably gonna go.
Not even probably.
Yeah. I mean, stranger things have happened. I mean,
I don't know if stranger things have happened here.
Moving to archaeology.
Yes, USC and
I don't know. And then of course we got Eugene Amarui.
Yeah, I was going to lead that up with something maybe I'm biased or, something like that. But you just threw it right out there. Yes, Eugene Marie.
I think if you've watched, I mean, he's had a very good season right now. And he is the leader of the only ranked team in the Pac-12 as of this recording.
Surprisingly enough.
And ranked 25. So barely just in it. And again.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, the two teams that we felt were the top of the conference in UCLA and Oregon matching up tomorrow, Wednesday, and it'll be interesting. The Ducks, of course, lose N'Faly Dante. That's something that I wanted to bring up. He tore his ACL, so he is out for the season. He was really coming into his own over the last few games. He had a bit of a slow start to the year, but you still see ridiculous per minute production. He wasn't averaging a ton of assists, but he's a really good passer. He's a bit slow to react and has never been the quickest guy off of the ground. And sometimes you just, want him to stand there and put his hands up, and he's just a little bit behind the play maybe. But yeah, still some absolute talent there, some ability to really shows some nice touch around the basket too. So yeah, he'll definitely be missed. But Eugene Amarui has been the best player on Oregon, and then he's going to be playing some center.
Yeah, it's going to.
I think he really thrives as well. What?
His role for the better. I mean, statistically, he's probably going to be getting. He'll be the center.
I know. Right, in his first game of center, he didn't set the world on fire, but we'll see. I think when he's been in those small ball lineups, they're really interesting, where the Ducks basically will have 4 guys who are 6'6". And then hopefully once Will Richardson comes back, that's actually a kind of big-ish small ball lineup. It's really funny. They're big at guard and small at in the front court.
Yeah, I think you have some lengthy guys, and I think Eugene, obviously not the tallest, but just super tough. And yeah,
really strong. Draws a ton of charges. He has ability to stretch out. He's been tremendous this year, and he seems like an all Pac-12 guy. So yeah, all eyes were on Will Richardson to start the year, but with his injury, hopefully we'll be back in around February or so. But yeah, Eugene has been the man in Eugene.
Yeah, and it also just, again, side note on him is he, continues this legacy of guys from Toronto who are playing for University of Oregon. So if you're fans of the show, we were born in Toronto. We both went to University of Oregon, and it's good to see those players following in our footsteps, but not going to the rec, actually going to the actual arena and playing. That's the more exciting part. But it's awesome to see that kind of weird Toronto to Oregon connect going on there with Eugene. Moving on, we got the SEC, another power conference.
Yeah, and I think Tennessee is kind of a group effort. So I'm not sure if anybody really is going to kind of be in the running from that team, though I feel like they are the best team in the SEC. Kentucky doesn't seem to have anybody who's likely an All-American. Sorry to say, but yeah,
and they're going for the professional route. They're prepping for the.
Well, usually they have an All-American too.
I mean, sometimes, but I mean,
most of the time.
Cal has, he has some, I guess, I would say down years in the fact of he doesn't have someone who's playing great in college for him.
Yeah, down years in the fact that they're 1-5, bro. Come on. What the hell? not playing great in college. Like, yeah, it's beyond that at this point with Kentucky this year. But yeah, they've definitely struggled. And while we thought BJ Boston could be a possible All-American candidate, I just like, it's kind of strange to say that I don't think Kentucky's going to win enough for that to happen. And he hasn't necessarily played up to that. The guy that I have for the SEC, just in general, like just representing the SEC right now, and I feel like with the other thing with the SEC, like Kentucky's played a good schedule. Some of them haven't really played anybody. Like Arkansas still hasn't really played anybody. And while I'm really impressed with some players on Arkansas, I don't know if that means they're like in the All-Americans discussion. One player is in the freshman All-American discussion. Actually, a couple players in this conference are. And but yeah, we'll see if they maintain that. But the guy that I have as like the early favorite for SEC Player of the Year is Trendon Watford, who is putting up some big time numbers for LSU right now. And yes, like Cam Thomas is the guy that everybody is talking about, and I think is likely going to be the leading freshman scorer in the NCAA this year. But Trendon Watford is just putting up like that all-around stat line. He has like the 18.8 points per game, 6.3 rebounds, 4.5 assists, 61.8 field goal percentage, 42.9% from the line, 83.3 from free throw line. And he has also only played, I guess they say 4 games. So yeah, he is, yeah, just looking like he's having a really strong sophomore year, and kind of might be the guy from the SEC to make the All-American team. A guy who I think could have had the chance to do it, and this is another person that I wanted to give an update on. Keonta Johnson finally left the hospital today. We are very glad to see that. He also gave a great message from the hospital the other day, and it seemed like he was at least doing well. He thanked everybody who sent their thoughts and prayers to him. So yeah, very happy to see that Keonta is left the hospital and appears to be on the mend. And we are hoping for great health for him moving forward. And yeah, just we'll try and keep you updated on that front as well. But yeah, right now from the SEC, just have Trendon Watford. There's a guy from the SWAC that I just wanted to quickly mention. I don't really know much about him, but his stats kind of like popped off. And they at least had like a 6-1 record. And I'm guessing that was a large part due to the fact that they have played absolutely no one. But or was it the SWAC? Hold on.
Yeah, they're that's the conference, or the Sun Belt.
Sun Belt. Sorry, man.
For because the I don't know what's in the water there. Their football team is undefeated. They actually beat BYU.
Yeah.
BYU's like, we're going to play anybody, anytime, anywhere, except University of Washington and Seattle. So they end up in Carolina and getting beaten.
Well, it turns out University of Washington didn't really want to play anyway. But sorry to say. But and we're hoping that everybody there is healthy. But yeah, in the Sun Belt, we have Devante Jones. He's averaging 3.9 steals per game. Just obviously, as we have mentioned throughout this small sample size, they have a big game against Georgia State on January 1st. But yeah, he's playing 28.6 minutes per game, averaging 23.4 points, 3.6 assists, 6.3 rebounds, 3.9 steals. Like, Jesus.
Yeah, that's
junior Devante Jones out of Coastal Carolina. Somebody that you should keep an eye on. So yeah, he's a guy that I haven't seen a ton of, but I was just looking at his synergy, and yeah, he seems to be at least popping off there as well.
That's definitely, definitely pretty, super impressive.
It would be wonderful if he up transfers and we can really see what's up. But yeah, it appears that he, at the very least, is somebody who is crushing college basketball.
Coastal Carolina's becoming a football power, so maybe the basketball team will slowly follow suit. Who knows? Nothing but love for the Sun Belt.
I think that's a good plan, JB. I'm with you on that one.
And then we got
that would be nice. That'd be nice. Hey, we support smaller schools here at Viseland, and we would love to see them crush. I love what's happening in I guess it was the MEAC, right?
Yeah, I think that's the conference.
Yeah, the MEAC with all the HBCUs. So yeah, we're hoping that more top players start going to HBCUs and some big things coming out of there.
Well, and again, that's one of the best parts about basketball. College basketball is like they can really do it. It can happen. Whereas in football, it's just like the size, the number of players that you're allowed. Like it's this whole thing like favors those big schools so much. Whereas like basketball's like, hey, you can go out there and play some defense. You can shoot like that. I mean, and obviously UMBC taking out #1 Virginia. It can happen. Whereas in football, the odds aren't good for a 16 beating a 1, but in football, I think they'd be way lower than they.
Yeah, I think it largely depends too, and like we said with UMBC, like getting a guy who used to play for Virginia Commonwealth and Just Laos. But like you see some of the guys at football schools, like some of those D1, 2A schools or whatever, get a big transfer and they eventually kind of kill it there and maybe upset a school or something along those lines.
It happens, but I just think like basketball is just it's just a more like you can just be on, but it's like football is like I feel like again it's endurance and size of just like they have more guys they can throw at you, like that. That's that kind of thing for football. Versus basketball, it's like sometimes it's like, funny. I remember when we were at University of Oregon, the Ducks were playing a Division III school that's very close to us. It's just Lewis and Clark College in Portland. And I remember certain people that knew some players on Lewis and Clark were like, oh, they're going to come in, they're going to shoot the lights. They totally didn't. But again, I think people feel that kind of confidence in basketball. Whereas like in football, if like they were to come play like a Division I school, wouldn't know they're getting slaughtered. Whereas in like basketball, like they all feel like everyone feels like they can, thinks in their own mind they can shoot the ball.
In football, I think you need more of like the team too. Like
that's why. Like
it's if you just go by like mathematics as well. Like if you are one basketball player that out of like 5 people on the court, that's 20% of the team just in you.
Yeah. No, totally.
And then if you are on a football team and you're one great player, you have 10 other guys that you need to worry about on the field at all times.
And then there's those times you're off the field altogether and other people are doing something that you're depending on. So a lot going on there, but sidetrack, but let's move back to a conference that I don't even know if they have football.
Probably most teams don't have like major, but
I don't think like
they have Gonzaga had a top football player commit to them and he's been freaking outstanding.
Well, yeah,
and that is Jalen Suggs, who was Minnesota Football Player of the Year, I think, for a couple years, and was
what they lack in basketball, they make up in football. By football, they make up in basketball by having Gonzaga.
Absolutely. So yeah, Gonzaga has 3 guys who I think are absolutely All-American candidates, and maybe even first-team All-American candidates. It would be crazy for one school to have 3 guys on the All-American first team, and I'm not sure if it's going to happen, but I think they could possibly have 2. And as we mentioned, Jalen Suggs has been out of this world good.
And then possible
shooting really well.
Really, putting on resume for that.
What?
For #1 pick.
Oh, he's in the running. Let's say.
I
still wouldn't put him there yet, but yeah. Well, yeah, he's playing. You're saying he's playing up the resume for it?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely impressive. He's impressive. I still feel like he hasn't done tons off of the dribble yet, and sometimes has a hard time getting to the basket in the half court. But he's just shooting out of his mind. He is a tremendous passer and just great all-around team player, and then his instincts as a defensive player and some of the athleticism there out of this world. So yeah, he's been, I think, the best college basketball player of any freshman so far. Two other guys on that team who are crushing it as well, and I think certainly help Jalen Suggs do as well as he has so far. Easy assists, let's say. Corey Kispert, who is always been somebody that can really shoot the lights out. And then another player that we've talked about before in Drew Timme, who is tremendous around the basket and like one of those guys who really quick to get into his moves there and has been scoring at a tremendous clip as well. So, yeah, both of those guys are certainly in the running for being among the 5 or 10 best players in college basketball, where Jalen Suggs is looking like one of the in the running for that as well. Another player who I at least want to mention, Pepperdine has a really interesting guy who has been on NBA draft conversation for a while in Kessler Edwards. But the guy who has always been pretty interesting also is their point guard, Colby Ross. And he's been one of the NCAA leaders in assists for a number of years. And I believe won Conference Freshman of the Year as well. I remember thinking like there was somebody else who might have deserved it, but I just off the top of my head can't remember. But yeah, he is second in the conference in scoring right now behind Corey Kispert, and he is leading the conference in assists per game. And yeah, just a very fun player to watch. Like has this array of like these touch shots and floaters and can shoot the ball as well. So Colby Ross, I think Pepperdine's going to do well in conference play, and Colby Ross is somebody to at least keep an eye on.
Yeah, it looks like last year for the WCC, it was Jake Toulson from BYU.
No, I was talking about the year Colby Ross won.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like he won, and then I felt like there was somebody else in that conference who like very well could have.
But it's only a Freshman of the Year award, so there's definitely more of the world than that. But obviously, it's crazy to think of like what the WCC team, all conference team looks like, because it's probably a pretty close mirrored reflection of Gonzaga's starting lineup right now, because they're just holding on that number 1 overall spot too right now.
Mm-hmm.
But given all these guys, we've talked about all the conferences, all the guys, so everyone's got a little bit of background. Let's run through. So at the end of all this, we're projecting obviously, but who's your All-American first team?
So my All-American first team, after going through all of that, I have Luca Garza at center. I'm going with Corey Kispert, Ayo Dosunmu from Illinois, Jared Butler from Baylor, and Jalen Suggs running it out. I left off Cade. I'm sorry. I feel like that may possibly happen. I'm not sure Oklahoma State's going to be good enough, and let's just say Cade is coming up very soon. So yeah, my All-American second team, I have Evan Mobley, Drew Timme, Ron Harper Jr., James Bouknight, and Cade Cunningham. So yeah, I put Cade on the second team. I put Evan on the second team. Now, if I was to go by prospects, it would look very different.
But I mean,
I would have. Let's just say I would have Evan Mobley, Cade Cunningham, and Jalen Suggs all on the first team in terms of prospects. But we're going by college basketball here, so yeah, that's my second team. My third team is Trace Jackson Davis, Jeremiah Robinson-Earl, Miles McBride, Davion Mitchell from Baylor, and Marcus Carr from Minnesota. So yeah, those are way too early, likely skewed sample size.
Yeah.
And we'll see what happens, college All-American teams. But yeah, just wanted to give you a few names to look at, and let us know if you have any All-Americans that you feel that were absolutely snubbed. Any other choices you feel should have been on one of these teams?
If there's anyone, please feel
if we're sleeping on guys in the SEC.
So what were you saying? I said if there's anyone we missed that you think should be an All-American that we weren't mentioning, go ahead and flame Michael in the comments.
Absolutely. I relish it. I will say that I gave a little freshman All-American team, and I have Evan Mobley, Cade, Jalen Suggs. The two other freshmen, this may be because of their small sample size, but Moses Moody from Arkansas, I think is having a tremendous freshman year, getting to the free throw line at a crazy rate, shooting well, playing good defense, even good passer as well, averaging about 16 points per game. They haven't played anybody. So I want to see Arkansas play people, but Moses Moody looking like a tremendous freshman this year. And then the guy who will round out the freshman All-American team for me, and this is again could be because of our small sample size, but I'm going to put it in Cam Thomas just because I think he's going to lead freshmen in scoring. He is kind of that one-dimensional guy, but bigger guard and just seems to be able to get buckets, and I think that is probably going to be enough to do it. Other freshmen, of course, like you have like Jalen Johnson, Zaire Williams, Scotty Barnes. It was nice to see Greg Brown have a good game against Texas, though I don't think he'll be really in the running. I'm sure that I'm leaving some out, but yeah, I feel like those five have been the five best freshmen so far, just in terms of college basketball.
Well, then as far as your freshman All-American team, just for our NCAA fans or NBA draft fans as well, how many of these guys do you think are heading to the NBA?
Probably all.
So that's the thing for college. A lot of college basketball fans is like, look at those freshman All-Americans, but don't necessarily always.
Cam Thomas, I think it has the best chance of coming back to school. But yeah, I'm guessing that all of them do. And then, yeah, I'm thinking the two Tennessee freshmen are coming off the bench right now, Keonta Johnson and Jaden Springer. But they've been so damn good. And it would be wonderful if they were in the starting lineup, getting more minutes, had maybe more of a leash. But yeah, that's just a great basketball team. And they're a team that I think people should really watch because they're so much fun. Really glad that they started to play basketball again. But yeah, just a few names to keep an eye on, and some guys that I feel have a chance to be college All-Americans this year. We know that doesn't always translate to them being drafted or anything along those lines or being one of the top draft picks. But it seems like there are a number of guys that we listen in here that are at least interesting and could be top draft picks.
Yeah, plenty of overlap between the two. But yeah, definitely different things you're seeing. So that's why definitely these are, those NCAA names we're talking versus, just straight up like NBA draft prospect. Look, and obviously those episodes are going to definitely happen a lot more as we get towards the end of the season, closer to the draft. But no, I think we're at a great time, hopefully for everyone to hopefully stay safe, and we can really get some good conference college basketball. It's going to be definitely a different season. We still, of course, might see those games postponed. For me personally, I know it's going to pain me when things like Oregon is playing in Los Angeles, very close to my home, and I cannot attend. That is a tough one to swallow, but I'm just happy. That the kids get to go out there and play. So definitely, it's a great time right now with college, and then obviously NBA tipping off. So this is a very special time for a lot of basketball fans because you get a lot of games to watch.
Yeah, and we're really looking forward to the Christmas games, the quintuple header. And yeah, just great to have the NBA back, great to have college back, and hoping that everybody stays safe and we can play as many games as possible.
That is the goal. But thank you guys so much for checking out this episode. If you like what we're doing, go ahead. If you're on YouTube, smash the subscribe button. Don't just click it, just give it a click. Smash, turn on the notifications, like, thumbs up, share. Also, if you're listening to the pod, definitely thank you so much. Leave a review, share it with a friend, share it with your friend's friend. We appreciate it. And if you guys want to check us, have any questions or just want to talk some basketball, drop a comment. You can also email us at viselandpod@gmail.com. And then where can they find us on the interwebs other than that?
He is at Jay Weisenberg on all social media. And I am at NBA Draft Mikey V on Twitter. And the other things you'll just type in Michael Weisenberg. You'll be able.
Yeah, there's not a lot of people with this last name, so yeah, you're pretty free range.
I think I might be the only one mainly on the internet, but yeah, Weisenberg luckily kind of a standalone for the most part. So yeah, just want to thank everybody for listening. This is going to be our second to last show before the new year, right, Jamie?
That is true.
Yeah, and then wishing everybody a happy holiday season and happy start to the NBA. Going to be a lot of basketball to talk about. So thank you all for listening to Viseland.
Perfect. And we'll catch you guys next time. Thank you so much.